everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is Leanne from Nefesh B'Nefesh. I'm the community manager for Tel Aviv. And we have asked our financial expert, Suzy Kahati, who has a really great understanding of not just finances in general, but finances in this current crisis. She's really up to date with everything. And she has kindly and generously offered up some time to help everyone here. In the seminar, we're going to go through a lot of different things. If you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A box. Suzy will get to your questions either during, if we can. If not, then they'll be at the end. And we're going to leave you Suzy's details so you can also reach out to her with anything you need. Okay, so Suzy, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Shalom. My name is Suzy Kahati. I'm a certified family financial advisor. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who showed up today. I know some of you might be at work, unemployed, but I know that some of you also have children. So this hour is very special. So thank you again. I also like to say thank you to Nefesh B'Nefesh, especially to Leanne, my co-host today, for initiating and organizing this really important webinar. Now, at the moment, since the beginning of the week, every day at 2 o'clock, I have been appearing on Facebook Live, giving you updated information to help you through the coronavirus financial crisis. But today, I am going to be going through more depth of what needs to be done. I will be throughout the webinar looking at the question and answer box. So if you have a question, please zap it in, and if it's relevant, I will answer it. If not, as Leanne said, at the end of the webinar, I will be taking your personal questions. Now, if you don't get an answer, you're most welcome to contact me. This is what I'm here for, to help you through the financial crisis. And another thing, I will be giving details at the end of the webinar regarding my coronavirus financial first aid kit. Again, details about this I'll be giving at the end of the webinar. So what is we're going to be talking about in this webinar? We are actually going to talk about how to navigate a Bitul Lomi. If you have to put in a claim, what are the 3 steps? Also, I'm going to talk about what the benefits the banks are offering in order to tide you over the financial crisis. I'm going to talk about how to streamline expenses, and also to ensure that in a short-term crisis, I do not see this crisis going on for years and years, that we don't make a decision that causes a long-term financial disaster. Okay, so what are we feeling at the moment? We're feeling a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of fear. So first of all, we are concerned about our health of our family, extended family, friends and colleagues, and especially our aged parents. And for this, the Ministry of Health has issued very specific guidelines what needs to be done. Social activities are out. To leave the house is out. Only for essentials, that means going shopping or buying drugs. You know what, it's really strange, Leanne, that even in our age, with all the technical advances that we have, the thing that's going to keep us alive is actually washing our hands. Today at 8 o'clock tonight, though, we have even more stringent regulations about going out, and people who are going to be caught going out for no apparent reason will be fined 500 shekels, and people who are in isolation and they're meant to be in isolation, they're caught going out, will be fined even more. I think it's between 1,000 or even 5,000 shekels. So this is how serious it is to stay at home. The next one is unemployment. How many of us after the crisis will find employment? But you know what? We are really, really fortunate about living in Israel, because unfortunately we're always prepared for a crisis. It's usually a security crisis. And what I'm going to be talking about today is how to people who are made unemployed, and people who have to take unpaid vacation days, what to do. And I have to say that we as a country are so well organized. I'm seeing what's happening in England, seeing what's happening in the US, where places of work are being shut down, that people are going to be left destitute. It's not going to happen here in Israel. So let's look at the last area. What our responsibility? How do we manage financially over this period? Actually, Leanne, you know what? I have two types of people that are phoning me up at the moment. I'm getting, for me, business is as usual. There are people who are phoning me up and saying to me, how are we going to manage? How are we going to make ends meet? I know these people are not budgeting, or will never budget, never plan their money. And then have people who are phoning me up and saying, how do we minimize the damage? And I know these people are budgeting, planning the money, and most of them, like most of my clients, have an emergency fund. So less stressed people are people who are handling their finances proficiently. And here in this webinar, I'm going to help you become proficient in handling your finances in a time of a financial crisis. Okay, nevertheless, the main cause of concern is we don't know how long this is going to last for. It's going to last for 2 weeks. Is it going to last for a month? It's going to last for 2 months. This feeling of uncertainty, of not knowing the known, is going to cause us stress. So we hopefully have some reserves that we can wave us through this uncertain time. But just before we carry on, I know there's quite a lot of people who don't know me. I'm just going to very briefly introduce myself. As mentioned, I'm a certified financial advisor. My history was that when I got married, most of our married life, we were living in debt and overdraft, because I thought that's how people lived in Israel, and I didn't know any different. But the trigger came when my husband my then husband, received an enormous bonus from work, and he went to pay off our substantial loans and an enormous overdraft. And I was very frustrated about this, and because I knew life should be and could be better. I'm just going to make a long story short. When I started to become a family financial advisor, this is when our family finances really improved. We became debt-free very, very quickly. We stayed there, especially after we finished paying off the mortgage. And after my studies, my vision was to help every single family and individual become financially stable and staying there. Okay, but another thing I have to tell you, that this webinar is being written really, really quickly. Even today, when Leanne asked for my presentation, I said, no, I can't send you the presentation this morning because I was on a webinar with the Union of Family Financial Advisors, which I belong to. I'm an active member and part of the research committee. We were having a webinar with the representative from the Bank of Israel, and things were changed and things were updated. So what I'm trying to say is, first of all, what I'm telling you today is up to date today. If you're going to be listening to my webinar in a week's time, like in the 1st or the 2nd of April, things might be changed. And another thing is, because I've been, this was updated today, I am going to be using my notes in order to make sure that I'm telling you everything that you're meant to know. Again, if you have any questions, please put it into the question and answers. Okay, so Netanyahu has been appearing on the news every single day, updating us. And some of us who don't know Hebrew won't understand what I'm going to try and do. Is going to try and accumulate all the information that we should know and put it into a webinar. Okay, so how does the coronavirus affect us? So let's talk about chas v'chalila. You have been infected by the virus and you have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Nowadays, they have special hotels called the coronavirus hotels that you can go into. It's paid by Kupat Cholim. And in order to be compensated, you need to bring a note from your doctor to your place of employment that you have been sick, normal. You can accrue up to 90 days of sick leave. So if you're sick, you will be compensated. What happens if you were in contact with somebody who had coronavirus, or you've come back from abroad and you had to go into quarantine for 14 days? Unfortunately here, you're not sick, and therefore you're not entitled to a sick pay. It will come off your vacation day. I know quite a number of people who've had to be in isolation, they have carried on working from home. I can't say that you're going to be, your vacation days are going to be taken off the time you've been at home. I think you need to negotiate with your place of employment what happens when you're working at home. I now know that quite a lot of companies are working, the employees are working from home. We have a very good example. We have Leanne, who works for Nefesh B'Nefesh. She's now working from home. Am I correct, Leanne? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Okay. In both of these cases where you had to bring in a sick note, or you're in quarantine and you can it'll go off your holiday pay, it means that your place of work is still functioning, which is great. But we are going to talk about what happens when you are made redundant or you're asked to take an unpaid vacation leave. But let's talk about what Bitur Leumi does. Bitur Leumi is like, for example, I come from England, so it's like national insurance, and people from the States, it's like social security. This is when the government looks after the citizens by providing an income or allowance. So if you're unemployed, or you're going on maternity leave, or you've suffered an injury and you're going to be a long time at home, or you're disabled, or people who go on miluim. And of course, if you are retired, Bitur Leumi will give you an allowance. And they also will process your claim and decide how much of your allowance you're entitled to. So this is what Bitur Leumi does. Now, throughout our working lives, we pay Bitur Leumi through our place of work. That means your employer is required by law to deduct a certain amount from your pay slip in order to pay for Bitur Leumi. I am self-employed. I still pay Bitur Leumi, and my accountant is responsible to make sure that my Bitur Leumi payments are being done. Okay, now you start paying Bitur Leumi from the age of 18 the moment you stop studying in school. Okay, and even if you have 6 months before you go into the army, that period of time you should be paying Bitur Leumi. And we stop paying it at the age of 67. That's when men are required to go into, required to retire. And we can start claiming Bitur Leumi from the age of 20. That means after we have finished our army service. Okay, now if you are made redundant from a place of work, up to now you had to be working 12 months continuously, consecutively in a place of work in order to be entitled to unemployment. But because of this amazing, crazy situation that we're in, what's happened is that Bitur Leumi has said you have to be working 6 months consecutively in order to be entitled to unemployment. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that I have to be working in one place of work for 6 months. It means that I have to be working continuously for 6 months. That means if every 2 months I worked in a different place, I'm still entitled to Bitur Leumi. Okay, is that clear? Is that okay? Great. Again, questions, please put into the questions box. I can see them. Right, now, Bitur Leumi has not only decreased the amount of time that you need to be working in order to qualify for unemployment benefits, they've also increased the amount of money that you're going to be receiving, which is brilliant. Okay, for people who have a low wage, they're going to be increased till 70%, and people with a higher wage bracket will be reimbursed at 55%. But
Suzy, someone asked, what if you're Osek Patur?
Osek Patur, I will.
As a freelancer.
Unfortunately, at the moment, I spoke to my accountant yesterday that we are not going to be, at the moment, there's no clear instructions on how we're going to be reimbursed. They did speak about reimbursing small businesses with a grant of 6,000 shekels. Yet we have no instructions on who is going to do it and who is not going to receive it. At the moment, all they're offering is loans. I just want to go back to the maximum amount you're going to be receiving for Bitur Hlumi is 11,000 shekels. Eli Jacobi, hi Eli, it's good to hear from you. Okay, he's asked whether a woman over the age of 62 is eligible for Dmei Avtala, which is unemployment benefit. They have, as of yesterday, they have changed the policy that people who are carrying on working will receive a unemployment benefit, or definitely they can receive supplementary income. Hannah Simon has asked what is considered a small allowance wage. I have to tell you, Hannah, I'm a family financial advisor. I'm very, very familiar with what's going on in the financial world, especially now. But the specific questions, I think you need to ask a professional like a lawyer or a banker or people who work in Bitur Hlumi. Okay, can small businesses owners who work in tourism have now income receive Avtala? Yes, they has on the website in Bitur Hlumi, and they have a fantastic website in English. The people who worked in tourism, especially tour guides, can receive the Dmei Avtala. Okay, now I would like to go back to people who are made redundant. I want to make sure that you receive the following: a letter why you have been made redundant, and according to the terms of employment, any salary that is still due to you. You also means that you need to have your vacation days, the Dmei Havra, which is unique to Israel, and you're entitled to this to receive Dmei Havra if you work the whole year. That's if you work full-time, and if you only work part-time, it's a year and a half. Also, your pitsuim, which is compensation pay, and you're entitled to this if you work a full year, and it's 1 month salary per year. Also, make sure they release the pension into your name and Form 106. I'm not going to go into more details about this because there's so much information that I want to talk about. If you have any questions, please contact me or send it in the questions and answers box. Okay, now I'm going to explain how you claim benefits. And the first step, according to the video that the Mankal of Bitur Hlumi issued, it's not to go to Bitur Hlumi. The first step that you have to take is that you have to register in the Lishkat Atasuka, the Israeli Employment Office. As you can see, I have the website. Unfortunately, the Lishkat Atasuka, the website is not translated into English. So we have—
It's not translated into English, but Nefesh B'Nefesh has created a page on our website to tell you step by step how to do it in English, and I will send the link shortly.
Oh, it's brilliant. Fantastic. That's good to know. Really good to know. Okay. Next is people have been made redundant or been asked to go on unpaid vacation days. Their employer has to fill in Tofis mail, okay? Form 100. Again, you don't have to physically go to any of these offices or like Lishkat Tasuka or to your place of employment. I don't think that many of these governmental offices will have anybody there, so they encourage everybody to do it online. What is the Form 100? The Form 100, it means the employer has to fill in your salaries for the last year. And if you haven't been working there for a full year, as mentioned before, you're entitled to receive unemployment benefit if you've been working consecutively for 6 months. Okay, so we have the first step. You have to register in the Israeli Employment Office. Liang will send you a form in English, how to do that. Form 100. And then we actually run off to Bitur Hlumi. No, we don't run off to Bitur Hlumi. We actually sit on our computer and we go to Bitur Hlumi. Okay. Right. The problem is at the moment with Bitur Hlumi is that nearly 1 million people have put in a claim for Bitur Hlumi in the last couple of weeks. And therefore, the website has enormous strain on it, and sometimes it has crashed. The Mankala Bitur Hlumi has said, please try and persevere. I know that people have gone into the website late at night and early in the morning. One of my girls told me, I went into the Bitur Hlumi website at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had no problem in putting in my claim. There was another, okay. What happens if you have a second job? Somebody has asked, and then the first job you've been made redundant, you're still entitled to unemployment, except that they will deduct part of the employment benefit according to the salary you see from your second job. I hope that's clear. It's great that you're sending in questions. Okay, right. Okay, is this clear? First step, you go to the Israeli Employment Office. Second step, that your employer has to fill in a Form 100. And the third step, that we put in our claim in Bitur Hlumi. Okay, it's really important that when you put in a claim for Bitur Hlumi, if you've been made redundant or if you have asked to take Khalat, we'll talk about that soon, to have a letter from your employer why you are not required to turn up to work. There are standard letters. If you've got a problem with that, please contact with me because I've got the letters here. Now, if you have any questions about your workplace, the Histadrut, which is a workers' institution, has a fantastic moked, and you can phone them up. They'll answer any questions, and the number is 2383. Kochavit, it's star 2383. Okay. Now the Mankala Bitur Hlumi has asked that you follow these 3 steps because they want to pay you as quickly as possible, and they said that they don't have all the information, it will delay your claim. Chabal. Another thing that when you do put in a claim of Bitur Hlumi, you'll be given a username and password. Don't lose it like I did. It's fantastic because you can track your claim, and also when you phone them up, you can use this as a reference. Okay. Whoops, this went. Now, yesterday, I looked at the updates.
Suzy, you have some messages on the Q&A.
Okay, let's have a look. Oh, yes, we have a lot. Right. Let me just see. Somebody is a Meshik Bayit and a cleaner. They can also claim Bitur Hlumi. Yes, definitely. So long as the employer fills in the 100 form. Okay. I'd like to talk about what the Bitur Hlumi is giving, had announced yesterday. People who put in a claim until tomorrow, it's the 26th of March, and I suggest you try and do it, will receive a special bonus before Pesach of 2,000 shekels. Not only that, they've also informed that people who had put in a claim before the 28th of February will receive an extra month of unemployment because at the moment, nobody's hiring. Okay, any questions, please put into the chat, into the questions and answers. Okay, that is what I have to say about Bitur Hlumi. Again, they have an excellent website in English. Before you do anything, I do suggest you look what's about the instructions. So let's talk about Khalat. Khalat means Chofish Lelo Tashlum, unpaid vacation days. Now, it wasn't invented just now. It's been around for a long time, and it was for people who wanted to take a prolonged leave of absence from the work. For example, somebody who wants to look after a sick family member, people who want to go on a prolonged vacation, people who needed to go and study, people who needed to study for the exams. And they wanted to guarantee their position when they come back to work. The minimum amount of time that you can take khalat is 30 days. And here it's great because it will take us right us over till after Pesach, which hopefully by then we can go back to work. I would really love it if we could. There's no guarantee. Another thing is that your place of work is not required by law. If you ask for khalat to give it to you, it's at the discretion of the workplace, okay? It's a great, great thing. So here, we need to know about what our rights are if we are taking khalat, okay? Khalat means that your employer will still carry on paying your bitur hlumi. He will be, that's very bad, it's not politically correct, because I've mentioned the he, it could be a she. They will be reimbursed when you return to back to work, either on a lump sum or they will add onto your salary in installments. It depends how long you've been away from work. So they are required to pay your bitur hlumi. During the time you're on khalat, you do not accrue vacation days and sick days. Okay. The next thing is that during khalat, your employer will not pay your social conditions. That means he will not be putting money into the Keren Ishtamut, Bitur Menalim, Keren Pensia, Kupot Gemel, and so on. Okay?
You have some questions in the Q&A.
Okay, so what happens if you laid off at the end of, before this is started, Ariel, you will be given an extra month. How many months will bitur hlumi pay for khalat? Okay. Bitur hlumi up to now has paid 6 months until the age of 50. After the age of 50, you are entitled to 8 months of unemployment. I'm not going to say how much they're going to be paying now because it's been changing from day to day. What I do suggest is you look in the Bitur Hlumi website. Is there anything extras for pensioners? Yes. They are saying that they're going to be something extra for the pensioners, that if you're still working. In fact, but it hasn't been decided how much it's going to be to the anonymous attendee. Okay. Okay, I think, right.
Go on, scroll down.
I don't think oh, here we are. I'm not managing to scroll. Can you scroll as well? I can't see what Denise has written.
Is a pay cut effective even if one has not been notified yet?
You have to be notified in order to do anything, Denise. They can't just, if they haven't...
Loads more questions, scroll down.
Oh, wish I could, oh, we are, okay. Is a pay cut effective even one has not been notified? No, they cannot do that. They have to have your permission in doing it. Otherwise, it's something called hara'at na'im. They have made your work conditions worse. They have to notify you. Okay, a friend with medical emergency and rehab will go home tomorrow. She's employed, not yet fired. She's missed out. And if somebody has been sick, they will be reimbursed with sick pay. Okay, if you applied employment from 3 months ago, do you get an extra month? Yes. No, you won't get the extra 2,000 shekels Pesach amount. I don't think so, but it's definitely, you never know, miracles might happen. I'm trying to go down even more. What is done? Okay, let's see about any more. Okay, shall we carry on? Let's talk about pensions. Okay, as mentioned, if you've been unemployed and you're on khalat, Nobody is paying your pension. And we have to ensure that our pension schemes are remaining active. So we have two options here. The first option, which is the most favorable one, and this is the one that I do recommend, is that you carry on paying the risk, which means that if something will happen to you, the insurance company will honor the policy. While you're in contact with your insurance agent, what I do recommend is see if there's any hang-ons to your policy. For example, you might have a disability insurance or a health insurance, and see whether you would like to carry on paying that. The most important thing is if something happens to you, that you are remunerated, and your family also is going to be okay. The second option I don't actually recommend is that you carry on paying the full pension, but that's up to you because it's quite a lot of money, and at the moment we need to conserve money. Okay, any questions? There might be one question, is what happens if you haven't been working for 6 months consecutively? It could be somebody just out of the army. I would suggest that you put in a claim to bitur laumi. I'm not quite sure what you would get reimbursed or an unemployment benefit, but try. Okay, here it is. People at the age of 16 on pension but still work are also entitled to the claim. I just heard today for the older generation is that there's been a special market set up to supply hot meals to people who can't get out of the house, and the number is *1118, 3 ones and an 8, and this is really important information to people who know that can benefit from this service. Okay, let's get back to what we're talking about. I was very deliberating at this stage what to talk about, whether to talk about how to streamline expenses, but the banks have come up with amazing offers and benefits, and I think at the moment, it's very useful that I'm telling you what the banks are offering. First of all, right at the beginning of the crisis, the banks have offered to freeze your mortgage, okay, which is great. If you do want to freeze your mortgage, I would suggest that you consult a mortgage broker, a professional, for tips and see how this is done. And I'd like to talk about the mortgage anyhow and explain to you how it works. A mortgage is divided up into two. We have the principal, which is the amount of mortgage, the amount that we have borrowed, for example, 300,000 shekels. And then we have the interest. And you must probably see on your mortgage payments or in the loan payments how it's divided up. You have the principal and the interest. So the first stage is that you can just not pay the principal and just carry on paying the interest, which is feasible here if you can do that. And the second option is actually to freeze the whole payment. So how does this affect your future mortgage payments? Well, there are two options here again. One is that the 3 months you've frozen will be extended on your mortgage payments at the end. The other one is that it will be the extra money will be put onto your monthly payments after the mortgage payments have been unfrozen. What option to take? I think you need to negotiate with the bank and what works for you. If you have any questions, again, put them into the questions and answer. Okay, so I'm going to say this, it's not a favorable thing to do at this very moment because it will affect your credit rating, which means that it will be difficult to secure a loan in the future. Now, I was on the webinar with a representative of the Bank of Israel today, and they're going to try and cancel this bad credit rating. Again, because we have everything in place for a security crisis and not for a health crisis, they have to change the protocol. And it does take time, but hopefully it won't affect your credit rating. But again, this is the last step that I'd like you to take, because there's so much you can do beforehand, and we're going to talk about this in the webinar. Okay.
You have some messages, Suzy.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to talk about if you do have want to do something with your mortgage. They have an all-purpose mortgage. It's called Halva'a Lekol Matara, and the Bank of Israel said today that up to now you can only get up to 50% of the value of your property, and they have decided today to increase this amount up to 70%, which is brilliant. Except we have a little bit of a problem. How do we get about it? Because most banks, they don't have, they're not what's it called, they're on skeleton staff. Okay. Stan, can I use my sick days during Khalat? No, you can't. Which part of the pension did you say yes to pay? I would say to pay for the interest. Amalia, let's see if I can get down to Amalia. No, Amalia, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Amalia, what did Amalia ask?
What should I do with my savings?
Oh, okay, so I'm going to come to that in a moment. Okay, not only did we hear that the banks will freeze our mortgage payments, a couple of days ago, in fact yesterday, they also announced that they're going to freeze our loan payments, okay, which is great. Again, it can be extended for 3 months, but some banks will also offer additional benefits, but everything will be provided, especially by loans, at the discretion of the bank and in accordance with the needs and the customer profile. That means we've got a good profile, a bad profile, the banks will make decisions accordingly. In other words, if a customer had problems with repaying loans in the past or had returned checks, it's likely that the banks will be able to enjoy the new benefits, despite the exceptional crisis that we're in at the moment. So what I want to do now is actually ask, tell you what various banks are giving or offering, and it's really important to know which bank you are and what benefits they're offering. Okay, so all banks that are offering mortgages will freeze your mortgage for 3 months. Great. Again, though, this is the last thing that I would like you to do, and they're also going to be freezing your loans. So the Bein-Leumi, the first international bank, which is also Otar Hayal and Bank Mossad, they will increase your line of credit for 90 days without a fee. Line of credit means that you can go into overdraft. You do pay an interest on this privilege. Therefore, if you do want to increase your credit, I do suggest you negotiate the amount of interest that you have to pay. Okay, another great thing that the First International Bank is doing, we have, most of us have a mortgage commission track in place, which means we have the basic, we have the expanded, and we have the premium. And the commission track allows us to have a set amount of transactions in a bank account, and also how many transactions we can do with the teller or a banker. So the Bein-Leumi, the First International Bank, has said there's no restriction on how many times you phone up the bank, which is great, fantastic. Okay, they're also offering a loan with a grace of 6 months. What does grace mean? Just why I talked about that when your mortgage payment, that you don't pay the principal, you only pay the interest. This is what grace is. Bank of Poland will give you a loan up to 30,000 shekels with the grace of 6 months with payment up to 60 months, which is good. The Bein-Leumi, they are doing something great for the elderly population. The elderly population have a tendency to go into the bank for transactions, and of course this is something that we want to avoid. And they're going to be issuing debit cards like a credit card, and they're going to be sending it to all the elderly population. They say they have about over 3,000 people in this category, and they're going to be receiving this debit card. In fact, the Bank of Israel this morning also issued the fact that up to now, the elderly population likes to go into the bank in order to do bank transactions. And they say in order to avoid them coming into the bank, they could do the transactions by phone, which is brilliant. So because we know that the elderly population sometimes has difficulty in dealing with internet banking. So this is really good information to pass on to anybody that you know who fits this category. Okay, bank discount, okay. They offer, we're talking about savings, they offer a variety of deposits to customers who are concerned about the market fluctuations and are interested in short and medium-term investments with weekly exit stations. I would actually talk about if you've got a portfolio on the stock exchange, just leave it, because we know after the crisis, we've seen this time and time from history, that the shares will go up. Bank Mizrahi will grant you grace only 45 days on a loan, and then we have Bank Yahav. Bank Yahav and the Union of Family Financial Advisors work very closely together because Bank Yahav is the bank that will help people out in dire financial straits. And here they're offering a loan that will give you 9 months grace, up to 15 years payback, which is unusual because most banks give up to 5 years. Sometimes there are exceptions, 10 years, which is brilliant. Again, if you want to turn to Bank Yahav to work with them, I do recommend you working with a professional family financial advisor like myself, because when we issue a request for a loan, we normally get priority and we normally get a yes. Okay.
We have some questions in the Q&A.
Thank you very much. Okay. Very, very good question. You explained mortgages and loans. What about those of us who are paying rent? Anything you can do? Of course you can. You can go to your landlord and say, listen, during this time, can we pay half the rent? And we can, when things go back to normal, to reimburse you. You can ask them not to pay rent at all. I think that a landlord would be very happy to accommodate you, because if you have to leave the place, they're not going to find people to, replace you so quickly. Mandy, if I have a sector, can I get any benefits? I also work as a schira at the moment and using up my holidays. Okay. Why are you using up your holiday days, Mandy? You don't need to use up your holiday days. Okay. What did Hannah Simon write at 2:43? Oh, we're already at 2:43. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. With the remaining time, I'm going to talk a little bit about streamlining expenses. Okay. We're at the moment at home. Some of us are really enjoying it. Some of us are finding it very difficult, like myself, because I live by myself. Some of us are enjoying reconnecting with the family. Some of us are really happy because we can do our Pesach cleaning without any stress. I do recommend, in order to avoid the level of stress, is to keep your routine. That means you go to bed on time, get up on time, like I do. I have my alarm clock that goes at 7:30, and I start working. Okay. Now, what we need to do, we need to assess our financial situation. So how do we do this? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to build a preliminary budget. A preliminary budget is not the actual budget. It's a budget that we take from the last 3 months. You take the last 3 months of your bank statements and credit card statements. You can use my budgeting form. It's on my website. It's suzykahati.com. And I like it because it's on Excel format, very easy to use and to adjust according to your needs. Okay. So what do we do? This is from the bank statements. We put everything under the food for the first month or the second month, under the first and second month. So it looks something like this. Okay. Once we have the 3 months filled in, we have to then put an average on it. And since we only have 3 months in order to calculate the average, we divide it up to 3, but we have certain things like arnona and electricity that we pay every 2 months. We divide it up by 2 or 4. So once you've totaled all the averages up, that is the basis of your preliminary budget. If there's any questions, please zap it in straight away. Okay, now I have to warn you, if this is the first time you're doing it, building a budget will take time. It takes me quite a long time when I'm doing it for my clients. But don't worry, you're at home now. It's a good time to do your budgeting. Okay, now hopefully your income will cover all the expenses, but you might want to streamline expenses and make your money more efficient. And so how do we do this? Okay, what we do, we have 4 types of expenses. Okay, I like to do a budget with my clients. We always prioritize our expenses. We have the vital expenses like arnona, insurances, mortgage, rent, loans. We know how much we have to pay every month. We also have vital expenses that we have to pay, like water, food, medicines, petrol, gas. We don't know exactly how much we're going to pay, but we know roughly. Okay, now if you're doing the financial fire drill, these 2 vital expenses will show the minimum amount of income that you have to cover the minimum amount of expenses in the household. I'm running through this a bit. If you have any questions, you're most welcome to contact me afterwards. Then we have essential expenses that can be decreased or postponed, like clothes, hairdresser, dried preservatives and frozen food, fines, presents, and so on. And we also have the non-essential expenses. They're not vital, not essential, and they can be decreased, postponed, or cancelled, like restaurants, movies, shows, trips, and vacations. We're not going to do that anyhow, so we're okay. What I suggest here is to categorize these expenses according to the family's need, and then decide which expenses can be streamlined. Now, I don't have enough time to go into depth in this webinar exactly how to do it, but this is exactly what I do in my coronavirus financial first aid kit. And here is where I work with families and individuals, help prioritize the expenses according to the family's needs, and then streamline expenses as they can ride the financial crisis with the minimum amount of damage. And here I also would like to talk about food. Netanyahu has assured that there is enough food in the shops. I did go and do a food shop yesterday. There were more, I think, workers in the supermarket than there were people buying. The shelves are filled with cultures. Everything's good. I've seen what's going on abroad in England. There's lines and lines of people waiting to go into the supermarket. And when they get there, there are empty shelves. The same in the States. We are fine. There's even enough food for Pesach. This morning on the news, they announced which was the cheapest supermarket, which happened to be Rami Levy, and I really admire what he does. The most expensive supermarket is Tiftam. So when you do need to do a food shop, try and go to the cheapest supermarket. Unfortunately, in a time of crisis, we do tend to hoard food. As I said, there's no need to do that, but we are human beings, and this is our, what's it called, a survival mechanism. If you are going to hoard food, I would suggest up to 2 weeks, because what's in your freezer, your fridge, your pantry is actually your overdraft. How do you do this? How do you do it properly? You actually build a menu, a daily menu for the next 2 weeks. I also suggest that you have in order to reduce the financial stress is that you have breakfast at breakfast time, lunch at lunchtime, and supper at supper time, and you decrease the amount of snacks that you eat. Okay, I do have lots of articles on how to do an effective food shop on my website. I also have a YouTube channel. I have a fantastic booklet, How to Save Money in Israel. It's on my website, which is suzykahati.com. I also have a YouTube channel, I think I've already said that, and my Facebook page. Now, before you take out a loan, okay, I do suggest the most sensible thing to do at the moment is, in fact, to increase your line of credit. And if you're going to do that, I do suggest that you negotiate how much how much interest you're going to pay. But I'm going to give you some tips for the time less on how to streamline expenses. First of all, prioritize your expenses according to the 4 types of expense formula that I have just given. And check out the expenses that can be streamlined. There's lots of it. And also there's lots of things we're not going to be paying for. We're not paying for petrol. We're not going out to restaurants. We're not going out to movies. Try not to do a binge buying on the internet, especially for clothes. Okay. If you've got an emergency fund or savings, this is a good time to use it before you take out a loan. Think about cancelling your subscriptions to Spotify, iTunes, newspapers, books, clubs, or social clubs. Another thing about dates, checks. If you've got checks out there, please phone up the person you paid the checks to and ask them not to deposit them, because if you've had 10 checks that bounced, you will be considered as a khashban mugbal. That means your bank account is limited. It still exists, but you can't use it as a normal bank account. In the webinar this morning with the representative of the Bank of Israel, he says that they're going to try and not consider, if there's been checks that have been bounced, to consider it to affect your bank account. Again, the protocol was only for when we're in a crisis, a security crisis, and on a health crisis, and they have to change the protocol. But they're going to, hopefully, they are going to change it. Okay, let's carry on. Utilities like arnona and electricity and water, they can be postponed, but remember, at the end of the day, you will have to pay them. You're also not required by law to pay for the ganim that your children attend. They are not allowed to deposit their April checks. Okay, so that's also money saved, and check whether you have to carry on paying your children's chugim or your sport membership. Again, increase your line of credit. And one last piece of advice: if you feel that you're going to go into a financial glitch, please phone up your bank manager and talk to them beforehand and not afterwards. The bank likes to be informed beforehand and not have surprises, and you'll be surprised sometimes how accommodating they can be if you inform them beforehand. So my last piece of advice before I start to take questions is that before you make any financial decisions, review your preliminary budget, streamline expenses, and review again your financial position. Again, I will recommend that the first step to ensure your financial stability is, in fact, to increase your line of credit. Remember that in a short-term financial crisis, that we don't make decisions that would cause a long-term financial disaster. And just before I take questions, we've got some time left, I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to talk about my coronavirus financial first aid kit. As mentioned during the hour-long meeting, it's an hour-long meeting where I help you categorize the 4 types of expenses according to the family's requirement and help you streamline budgeting clauses to ensure your financial stability. A meeting with me costs over 700 shekels, but I'm not going to ask you to pay for this month because we're in a financial crisis. I'm not going to ask you to pay over 500 shekels, since I want to assist everybody in this time of financial Tomo. The investment for this amazing critical strategic meeting is only 349 shekels. A link to register for the financial first aid kit appears on my website, which is suzykahati.com. I'd like to say thank you again to Nefesh B'Nefesh for this opportunity, and I'm going to be taking some questions and answers.
Thank you, Suzy.
All right, I want to say thank you to everybody. Are we finished, or would
So you have some questions here, and I would also love to recommend to everyone to email you with questions if that hasn't been answered. But you have some questions here.
Okay, right. Advice on saving, should I withdraw, leave? Amalia, I would definitely leave your savings as is. I imagine it's very difficult to get through to a bank representative at this point. You can always try. I know that a lot of companies are still looking for work. I think the food companies like Knuva and Awesome are looking for workers. I know the Bitur Leumi are looking for workers in order to find help with the influx of the claims. I would suggest that you look on the Lishkat Tasuka in the website, and unfortunately it's in Hebrew, but you can use Google Translate and they will be posts. What's the difference between freeze loan and grace? A very good question, Hannah. To freeze a loan, you don't pay anything, and grace, you just pay the interest. Nancy, can you put your email back up? Definitely. Here we are. I need to put it up. Here we are. SuzyKahati@gmail.com. Oh, thank you. From a former client, thank you so much. Suzy's amazing, worth the investment to have her work with you to get things in order. You can see she's a wealth of information and guidance. Thank you so much. Judith, let's see what Judith has written. I can't see what Judith has written. Open all, let's see.
She said, thank you, Suzy.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Leanne, I managed to do it within an hour. Would you believe it? I can't believe it. There's so much information that still needs to be told. I hope that you'll invite me back again in order to carry on this really important giving of information in a time of financial crisis. But thank you again for organizing and creating this webinar.
No problem, Suzy. Thank you very much. And if anyone needs to contact Suzy, her email is up. If you would like to contact Nefesh B'Nefesh, then we have a hotline that you can call. It's *3680. It's 3680, okay? And we'll see you all soon.